Hey guys, wanted to go ahead and do a review of the Zero Blue 2. And this time, I actually have it, and it's not the Blue 1. Before I go in further, I'm going to go ahead and put some notes on the screen. Please note that the notes is very different from what's in the video, although a lot of it is covered, but it's more granular in detail, like a lab journal, because I let you know my thoughts from beginning to end. So I definitely recommend checking it out, yeah. Alrighty, well, so a little bit of history. I bought the Zero Blue 2 from eBay, and what they did was they gave me the Blue 1 and not the Blue 2. And so I had to rebuy it again and buy it off Amazon, brand new, and now I have the Blue 2. If you see right here, they look the same, don't they? Or pretty similar? This is the Blue 1. So the Blue 1 looks like this. See how it doesn't have any fish ridges on it? That's Blue 1. This is Blue 2. See that fish ridge? That's Blue 2. Who was the genius that thought of making a freaking IM like this? This is so dumb. Anyway, that's what it is. Okay. Now, in terms of a lot of things have improved from Zero Blue 1 to Blue 2. A lot of improvements. So I will actually talk about it. First is comfort. So the Blue 2 is a lot more comfortable compared to Blue 1. Second, the cable is a lot better. So this cable is more like the Truthear Pure cable, but it's black, or it's similar to the Truthear Gate cable, but instead of a 90 degree, you're getting a straight angle. This is a good cable. I'm actually happy I have this cable now. It's really good. In terms of, now let's talk sound. Bass, I would give this a ranking of A, just like I did on this. They're both basically really good. They have a lot of power, a lot of heft. I'm really, really happy with the bass here. I would absolutely give this a grade of A. In terms of sub bass, this is Beats by Dre level sub bass. So when I say how it's done, imagine right here it's correct. As in, like, this is how the audio engineer wanted it to sound like. This is how the musicians wanted the sound to sound like. This is correct. This right here is a little bit less than correct, as in, like, it's anemic. I mean, it's polite. This below is anemic, as in, like, you need to add more bass. That's not correct. This is actually not correct. This is above correct, as in, like, they added way more fun bass in here. And then this right here is Beats by Dre, like, brr-burm, brr-burm. This is Beats by Dre level of bass. It ain't neutral. It is way off the charts in bass, but it's actually still pretty well controlled. So for bass, again, grade of A. Sub bass is more like Beats by Dre. Okay, female vocals are actually much improved, ironically, over version 1. And I'll tell you why. So the problem with version 1 is, okay, so version 1 and version 2 both had good female vocals, but version 1 had some problems. The problem with version 1 is that basically the female vocals would get hidden by the music and the bass. So you could literally not hear their voices when they're singing sometimes, and it's like it was hiding their voices. But then when you would crank the volume up, then you could hear it more clearly. But then the sibilants would get really, really harsh. So this is very, very, very harsh with sibilants when you crank up the volume. Now, with version 2, what they changed is now the female vocals are now front and center. Now you can hear them more clearly. Now they're no longer hidden by the music, which is a lot better. However, suffice it to say, they both have problems, major problems when it comes to sibilants. When you crank up the volume, they both get really harsh. However, I still would give the female vocals here a grade of B and this a C. And the key difference is because at regular volume, this is extremely harsh with sibilants, even at regular volume, the original. But the V2 at regular volume, when I was going through some pretty extensive tests, it's pretty low on sibilants at regular volume. But when you crank it, that's when it gets bad. And ironically, when you crank up the volume on this, or when something comes in just naturally, it's like, holy crap, that's really bad sibilants. But as a whole, I would say I would give this a grade of B because it's good. The female vocals are good. They're not perfect. They're not great. They're good. So I put a rank of good, B. For male vocals, I would actually say it's a grade of B. So it actually is an improvement as well over the original. The original, I said, was very average. That's the word I kept saying, was average. Whereas in this version, the version 2, it actually is good. Like, it sounds like pretty good. Now, they do sound a little bit thinner and slightly synthetic, but it still sounds pretty good. And what I noticed in particular when I was checking some songs with male vocals, they sound a little bit like they're seated a little bit backwards, but it's kind of like, so it's still having that issue where some of the vocals are kind of hidden by music, but not as much as the version 1. So I would absolutely say that the vocals are better on version 2. The other thing I want to talk about, so more of a really quick, just brief talk about it. Soundstage to me sounded pretty average on me for these. You know what I mean? I didn't think it sounded great. But I didn't think it sounded bad. I just thought it sounded good, like great. Okay, so where this thing really falls apart and where these two are really different is with sibilants. So both of these failed catastrophically at sibilants. They are very, very harsh. Now, this is where things get interesting. When you crank up the volume about 25% above regular volume, the version 2 is worse than version 1. Even worse than version 1 when it's cranked. So this is a difficult IEM for me to recommend. It is, it's funny because the comments were actually coming in and they were like, yeah, you're not going to really notice much of a difference. They're both pretty harsh. But what I didn't really understand is how much harsher, right? So that's something to note. The last thing I want to talk about is basically, there it is, the Defiant factor. So basically, in general, I found that the Defiant is, so between these two, they're about on par. Sub bass is about on par. Female vocals, this is better. Male vocals is a little bit better here. A little bit more on point, so to say. But then I would say with sibilance and harshness, this is definitely not as harsh as this. So if you thought this was harsh, this is definitely going to be way, way harsher. So that's what I want to say regarding that. And yeah, the next section, I'm going to use microphones to let you hear what I'm actually hearing when I listen to this IEM. Hey guys, wanted to go ahead and do a microphone comparison and to tell you what I'm hearing. What does my voice sound like when I use the Critical Blue 02 and I monitor with it? This is a V-shaped microphone. You see how it's sharp, but at the same time, it's got that bass to it. So it really accentuates the bass in the voice. It doesn't sound like this, actually. What it also doesn't sound like, so this is another microphone. This is more of a smooth tonality, warm and smooth. Microphone check, testing 1, 2, 3. So it's not warm and smooth the way it sounds. It doesn't sound like this. It also does not sound bright, right? So this is a brighter sounding microphone, like microphone check, testing 1, 2, 3. A little bit brighter, but at the same time, it's V-shaped because when you come up close, microphone check, testing 1, 2, 3. A little bit of bass on it, but it doesn't sound like this. But it sounds more like this. It kind of has, it's pretty close to neutral, as in it's pretty close to the Rode NT1, but it's got a little bit of a dark tilt to it. And this is like the Stellar X2 Vintage. It's like, this is the closest to how vocals actually sound. This is what it's doing to male vocals.